In a basic painting like this, our eye still goes straight to the sunflowers. The yellow is part of the reason, but the blue surrounding the sunflowers is what it really makes them stand out. Hi, I'm Beatriz. Welcome back to the studio. Today we're going to be painting this blue door with sunflowers, and I'm going to show you how I use color to create one clear focal point without losing everything else that makes the scene beautiful. I am starting by protecting with masking fluid the DAPPLED light and the tiny flowers that I want to keep white. With Hansa Yellow Light by Core, I underpaint the sunflowers first, just enough to keep the shapes clear before I begin building the blue around. For the blue, I'm going to be using manganese blue by M. Grant, but if you don't have this color, it could be easily substituted by phthalo blue or even cobalt blue. I can paint freely over my masking, paint around the sunflowers. This door is going to be very simple. Look at this. I'm going to wet. I already have the light saved by my masking, and the other parts are going to be dark. So I can paint around everything except for the sunflower that is sticking out. And then I'm just going to bring my manganese blue and I'm going to paint it all over. The only thing you have to worry is about making this edge, know when it stops, and then the edge of the frame of the door. Everything else, you just drop the paint freely. Establishing our values by putting this underpainting is going to be a lot of light and shadows, but I want the parts that are light not to be just white. I want them a little bit warmer. I'm using Monte Amianta Natural Sienna by Daniel Smith. It's the same thing as raw sienna. It's just that their raw sienna is not opaque, it's fully transparent. A lot of these areas are gonna go darker with shadows, but for the time being, I'm dropping it everywhere that is architectural. I'm staying away from the pots and I'm staying away from the greenery. I'm gonna leave here the QR code for my Patreon if you are interested on the Paint Along pack, where you can get tracings, colors used, final image as a reference, etc. It is inside Open Studio on Patreon. Let this dry. I know that I'm getting a hard edge and I don't want that. And then come with green gold and drop the lightest greens. It's not gonna be this light, but this is the underpainting. Here is the, I don't have a hard edge between these two colors. Now that everything is dry, we're gonna come with the darker colors. And this is gonna get the depth inside the door, like if the door is halfway open. So this is the black that I mixed by mixing French ultramarine and brown sienna. This is my own mixing black. Both of them by the brand Winsor & Newton. And then I'm extremely careful that I keep it straight, because this is architecture. My black and my brushes. Let's just do all the windows. I wet a little bit in the middle. Be straight on the edges. Once you have the contour, just fill the rest up. And then in some of the areas that we wet, it will be a little lighter. And if not, look, rinse my brush and then fill this up. Yes, you want a little area that is slightly lighter than the other. All of them are going to be done the same way, so let me fast forward this. While we allow that to dry, we're going to put the underpainting for these parts. I don't want to have so much white. It's actually very distracting. At the top, I already put some masking to save my white flower, so I can paint freely. The color is French ultramarine. I did save a little highlight here with masking fluid, so I can paint freely there too. And let's just paint a little bit around these flowers. And we're gonna do this other part exactly the same way. However, I wanna leave a highlight here, so let me come with water. And the part that I want it lighter, so I bring the color till there, take most of that out, and then bring some of it higher, so I still have the highlight, but it is not white. The sunflowers have been barely painted, but we're already starting to establish the focal point. The yellows are being surrounded by blues, and the darker values are already in place. So next we're gonna remove the masking from the DAPPLED light in the door, and we're gonna straighten the blue without losing the brightness. We have pretty clear where we have the light and the shadow. So I will come with a second pass of my manganese, and now I'm gonna put it everywhere. But because I already have contrast, once they have one layer of color, it's gonna look darker than the ones who are gonna receiving it for the first time. This part over here is a little bit more, the door is open to the inside, so it'll be a little bit darker. So I'm coming with my manganese. And while this is wet, I still have a little bit of dampness. I come in with a little bit of the indigo, and then I'm gonna put it especially on the top. And then once I have that, again, you can come with manganese or just a brush that only has water, and then we're gonna allow this to blend here in the paper. Coming with the hands a yellow light, and I've been dropping it here in the areas where I want more light. The only difference between this and that is that this was painted on white paper, and this is painted on the blue one. Okay, and now that this is dry, I'm mixing my manganese with my French ultramarine, and we're gonna go ahead and start. We're gonna do a little bit of negative painting around the light areas. It's okay to leave a little bit, kind of like around it, or this original color, of this color. We're gonna do the same thing in this other door. And yes, it seems like we are spending a lot of time in this area. This is the surrounding area to our focal point, but it's also the darker area, so we establishing our values more accurate. So just cover your darker areas. We're gonna let this dry, and once it's dry, we will come and put a few other details on the door. While we allow all that to dry, we're gonna come over here with the fresh pass of the shadows of the wall. I am not going full strength yet. Sunburn umber, but it's still light. So I'm putting the light color. We're gonna start building some of these steps. Burn umber, but this time I mix it with queen gold light. You do one, you skip one, you do the next one, and so on and so forth. By just adding this, the art steps are already appearing, and now we need to allow all of this to dry. It's time to tackle the last part of white that we have left in the paper, and it's a little distracting. So I'm coming here with a mix of sap green and green gold. So for the moment being, I'm just gonna drop some permanent rose, just establishing where the colors is gonna go. Not painting flowers here, I just dropping the colors to establish where the red flowers will go. Okay, everything is dry, the lighter shadows are in place, but the brightest pieces are still hidden under the masking. So I'm gonna remove it. Now I can see better, the light is making more sense, but I wanna darken in some areas so that I can continue to bring our eyes onto our focal point, the pads and the flowers. So this part here, dark. The same mix that I used with this, burnt umber mixed with a little bit of the grays. Get closer to here, I'm gonna wet. I'm coming here with olive green and sap green, both by Daniel Smith. I do want an area here like the light is hitting, so therefore I'm not dropping color. I'm just going with the water and allow this to blend other together. And then again, I wet, and now I switch. I have these colors on my brush. I can, but a little bit darker. We can go ahead and start having this making sense. Right now it doesn't. It needs to go darker. Also comes into this this door frame, so it stops where the door stops. Okay, with the same colors of the shadows, all this part here is, and then just paint around some of the lighter areas. Just bringing these shadows to the steps, and the reason why I put in them right now is because I have the color in my palette. Let's just use it. We got some shadows here as well. These are gonna be more hard edge. We bring a little bit of the color, then a little bit darker color. We end up with a little bit of a sharper edge shadow, and drop some here and there. Now all the elements are working together. Of course, our focal point is still not finished, but I don't need to keep adding extra detail everywhere. Notice how once we put the little flowers, our eye will go there and it will guide us up to the sunflowers, which they will lead. We're just coming now to the part where we're going to start working on our path and on our focal point. This is a French ultramarine mixed with a little bit of indigo. I still have the masking on my white flowers, so I can paint freely around this part. I'm coming now with French ultramarine only. The idea here is to make the path look like it's glossy and standing up. I'm switching between French ultramarine by itself with the French ultramarine that has indigo on it. The whole idea is to bring more attention to our sunflowers, to our focal point, and we are doing this by bringing blues, which are the complementary colors of yellow. Therefore, our yellows will stand up even more. Some areas I'm going to have more of the indigo because the darks is going to help shape the path better, give them more roundness, etc. I have a highlight here that I want to maintain, but I don't want it to be all white, so I'm coming with the French ultramarine and a little bit of it. Have a little bit of a transition. This needs to dry before we put more detail, so it's the perfect time to start with our bottom path. I wet, then I put French ultramarine, then I switch to the indigos and French ultramarine. And having this contrast between light and shade is making our path turn and making it round. Instead of blending only with water, I'm gonna blend with French ultramarine in my brush. And now I'm coming with a Fedele green by Michael Harden, which is a dark green, and we're gonna allow these two to blend a little bit. Go like that, tap with water, so this green goes from more to less. Of course, if we do it on the bottom one, I'm gonna do it on the top one as well. This time I'm gonna make a little bit of negative painting to allow some of these leaves that are gonna be hidden by the light to show. Although I'm gonna later come back and darken the greens a little bit more. Pretty much all of this is going to be in the dark. So finish my path. Let's come now that it has dried with the indigo mixed with French ultramarine and try to redo this rim a little bit clearly and put a little bit down here too. These are more of the details that we are adding. It's okay to add them into this area because that's where we want our eye to go. Now French ultramarine and indigo. Let's just do a little bit of this. Just want to give some impressions of some decorative elements inside the pot, but I am not going to spend too much time just doing it basically by adding lights and shadows. And that's pretty much it. Put a tiny little dark here inside this other circle, and that should be all that we do. I have one brush with sap green and the other one with green gold, and we're going to create a few greens. Now these white and red flowers are giving us another stopping point for our eyes, but we don't want to put a whole lot of detail because we don't want our eyes to stop here. We want them to travel to our sunflowers. I have not removed my masking yet. I want to put some of these darkers. This area here is going to be a little bit darker, so I'm bringing back my Fedele. So go with that and then just tap with one of your brushes. So I'm going to put this on hold just for a second, only because I want to finish this part, which is kind of like an ivy growing onto the wall, so that I can remove my final masking, the one that I have left on the flowers. So I come with the colors of the background, but a little bit darker. And then I darken this area. We start with the Fedele green and we start adding as well. Both of them are wet. And then I come with sap green and let these two mingle. Some light is hitting this way, so we want that light. This is green gold, but I'm also going to bring a little bit of my Hansa yellow light. So I go over here, I'm going to come with a little bit more of the Fedele green. Go from more to less, and then we're going to start as if this also casts a shadow. So we're going to switch to the shadow colors in just a second. A few shadows. Well, we allow that to dry a little bit. I'm gonna wet around this area of my lights, and then with the same darker colors, I'm gonna darken all of this. We're gonna do a little bit of negative painting to make these steps, also the edge of the steps, come forward. Okay, let's darken the greenery of the sunflowers. This is purely green. I want to put, this is my main sunflower, meaning this is a big one, the bigger one. So yes, I'm going to put darker so that will pop out. Go with that. Switch to sap green. Now we're moving to the side where it's lighter. So sap green, top. And if need be, we will bring some yellows in a minute. Okay, so this is dry enough. Now is the perfect time to remove my whites, so my flowers, so that we can finish the flowers and both pots. So permanent rose, go with a little bit, drop it, then rinse your brush, tap again. We don't want to make all these flowers the attention. We want this a resting place to move our eye onto the sunflowers. Now I'm coming with my Hansa yellow light. Now for the white flowers, the only thing that I'm going to do is then I'm going to put a couple centers as if they are daisies or something like that. That is not looking like much, so let's just go with Indian yellow instead. I'm going to darken now a few of these leaves at the bottom, and then we'll be ready to put our sunflowers. So Burnt Sienna by Winsor & Newton from the centers of the sunflowers, and New Gamboge by Daniel Smith for the outside. I start with the Burnt Sienna and the centers. This is the darker part, that way I will know how light or dark to go in the outside. I put this in, and some of them are more oval, like they are not facing us. Now I'm going with the same Burnt Sienna, but a little bit thicker, and I just separate a little bit of these. I'm gonna go with just a little bit of water. And as you can see, by creating this relationship between complementary colors, blues, greens against yellows, oranges, then I don't need to put a whole lot of detail. My focal point is really coming to life because I'm using color to create it. Okay, so now New Gamboge, and we're gonna put it darker around the center. Put a little bit, darker meaning my color has enough strength. I put a little bit. Then rinse, come with water and bring some of that out. Then I'm gonna do a little bit of the same thing, but put a couple edges. Because the contrast of colors between these, the sunflowers and the blues, is what is making them pop. I don't need to spend so much time into adding a whole lot of details. However, we're gonna switch colors. We're gonna go with Queen Gold for this one here that is more on the shade, and that is also not fully open. So, not from this angle. It's fully open, but we don't see the whole thing from this angle. And these two, they are the biggest one and looking straight at us. We're gonna wait a little. I'm gonna add a little more detail, so I'm putting a center with the same colors, a center, Queen Gold around it, blend, top. And then we go with the New Gamboge on the edge, rinse, and then just bring it with some water. Although I don't want to take the attention from there, I don't want to put too many details, but I do have to. This door, this part of the door is inside. This will be a little bit darker, so I'm going to wet a little over there. And I'm going to stop here. So I'm going to wet there and here. Now I'm coming with the colors. They are a little bit of indigo and French ultramarine. And I'm just going to darken this part, so there is more end shade. And finally, to bring my attention back to here, let's just make a couple of these lines with the French ultramarine that has a little bit of indigo, very little, top with water. This continues to add, bring our eye onto this direction. One here that will be a little bit stronger. one in the top. All right, one little bit of a shadow, a stronger shadow here. And then we're gonna call this painting done. What I love about this painting is how our sunflowers stand up and how everything, all the other elements, guide our eyes to there, support the sunflowers without competing for them. The paint I'll unpack is inside Open Studio, and I will link it below if you are interested to join my Patreon. I hope you learned something out of this video. As always, I thank you for being here, and I will see you in my next one.